Imagine this. Chloe, a 24-year-old from Spain, had always dreamed of living abroad. The thought of walking through the streets of a big city, meeting people from around the world, and building a successful career was her vision of the future. But there was one major obstacle standing in her way. Her English was limited. She knew a few basic phrases, enough to get by as a tourist, but when it came to holding a real conversation, Chloe would freeze. The words just wouldn't come out right. Fast forward 1 year later, Chloe is confidently speaking English with her colleagues at work, having conversations with friends, and even giving presentations at meetings, all in English. Her transformation wasn't a result of luck. It was the result of hard work, perseverance, and following a clear step-by-step process to master the language. In this video, I'm going to share Chloe's story of how she went from struggling with English to becoming fluent, and how you can do the same. Before we dive into her inspiring journey, don't forget to subscribe to Speak Well Academy for more tips and stories on improving your English, boosting your confidence, and mastering new skills. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Now let's get into it. Let's go back to Chloe's starting point. Moving to the UK was a dream come true for her, but from the moment she stepped off the plane, she felt out of her depth. Ordering food at a restaurant? Struggling. Asking for directions? Confusing. Having a simple conversation at work? Almost impossible. Each interaction felt like an uphill battle. She could understand bits and pieces of what people were saying, but when it came time to respond, she felt like she was stumbling over every word. The fear of embarrassment made her avoid speaking as much as possible. But instead of giving up or feeling hopeless, Chloe made a decision. She wasn't going to let English hold her back from achieving her dreams. She set a goal for herself. Within 1 year, she would speak English fluently. This is the kind of decisive step we all must take when embarking on any learning journey. Setting a clear goal is the foundation for any language learning journey. Chloe's goal was specific and time-bound, which gave her something to work toward and kept her motivated on days when progress felt slow. This is the first step for anyone who wants to improve their English. Define your goal. Is it to have better conversations, get a job in an English-speaking country, or just travel the world with confidence? Whatever your goal is, write it down and remind yourself of it often. Chloe's clear goal was essential to her success because it guided her actions. Without it, she could have easily lost focus or given up. But goal setting alone wasn't enough. Chloe knew that in order to reach fluency, she needed to practice consistently. The first challenge she faced was finding time in her busy schedule. Like many of us, Chloe had a full-time job and other responsibilities, so dedicating long hours to learning English wasn't realistic. Instead, she started small. Every day, she committed to practicing for at least 30 minutes. Whether it was listening to a podcast, reading an English book, or watching a YouTube video, Chloe made sure English was a part of her daily routine. Step 2 is about consistent practice. Just like learning any new skill, the key to mastering English is to practice every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. The consistency builds momentum, and over time, those small efforts add up to significant improvements. Chloe's journey also highlights one of the most important aspects of learning a language: breaking it down into manageable pieces. She didn't aim to become fluent overnight. Instead, she focused on small, achievable goals. One day, she'd focus on improving her listening comprehension. The next, she'd work on expanding her vocabulary. This method of microlearning was crucial to her success because it kept her from feeling overwhelmed by the vastness of the English language. Often, when we think about becoming fluent, it seems like a daunting task. But when we break it down into smaller digestible pieces, we realize that progress is made one step at a time. The idea of microlearning is an essential part of step 2. Make daily practice achievable and enjoyable. By focusing on one area each day, you won't feel like you're constantly struggling uphill. Progress will feel more steady and motivating. One of Chloe's biggest obstacles was listening comprehension. She found it difficult to understand native speakers, especially when they spoke quickly or used unfamiliar slang. To tackle this challenge, Chloe started watching English language TV shows with subtitles. At first, she relied heavily on the subtitles, but gradually, she weaned herself off them, forcing herself to listen more carefully. She also began listening to English podcasts during her commute. This immersion into everyday English conversations helped her get used to the pace and rhythm of the language. After a few weeks, Chloe noticed that she was understanding more and more of what people were saying. The third step to improving your English is to immerse yourself in the language. Surround yourself with English as much as possible. Watch shows, listen to podcasts, and even change your phone or social media settings to English. The more you hear the language, the more natural it will become. Immersive learning is often regarded as the fastest way to absorb a language. What's incredible about Chloe's approach is that she used her everyday environment to expose herself to English constantly. Beyond watching shows and listening to podcasts, Chloe started paying attention to the conversations around her on the street, in stores, and at work. Even when she wasn't directly involved in a conversation, she observed the way people interacted, picked up common phrases, and noted how intonation and body language work together in communication. This was a critical part of her learning experience because it gave her exposure to natural spoken English, something that textbooks and grammar lessons often can't replicate. When you expose yourself to the language organically, you'll notice that your listening comprehension will improve without you even realizing it. This is because your brain starts to process the language in real time, just like it would if you were learning your first language as a child. Chloe's next hurdle was speaking confidently. She had made significant progress in understanding English, but when it came to speaking, she hesitated. She often felt a wave of self-doubt, afraid of making mistakes, mispronouncing words, or using incorrect grammar. This fear of making mistakes is something that nearly every language learner faces at some point. Many people are scared of being judged or laughed at when they mispronounce a word, struggle with sentence structure, or use the wrong tense. This fear of embarrassment often paralyzes them, stopping them from practicing speaking in real-life situations. But here's an important truth. Making mistakes is an essential part of the learning process. Let's break that down further. The more mistakes you make, the more opportunities you have to learn and correct yourself. Imagine a child learning to walk. They stumble and fall repeatedly, but each time they get a little stronger, a little more stable. Learning a language is much the same. Each stumble in grammar or pronunciation gives you feedback on what to improve, how to adjust, and how to eventually become stronger in your language use. Mistakes aren't failures. They're growth opportunities. Once Chloe realized this, her entire mindset changed. She stopped viewing her errors as something negative and instead saw them as a natural and necessary part of her journey to fluency. Many learners like Chloe find themselves trapped in what psychologists call the perfectionist mindset. This mindset can be detrimental to language learning because it focuses on avoiding mistakes rather than embracing them. Perfectionists want to get everything right from the start, but in language learning, this approach often leads to frustration and slow progress. The key to overcoming this is to adopt what experts refer to as a growth mindset. A growth mindset allows you to see challenges as opportunities and failures as part of the learning curve. Chloe embraced this way of thinking, and it liberated her from the fear of judgment. She began to see that her mistakes were not a reflection of her intelligence or worth, but simply a sign that she was pushing her boundaries and stepping out of her comfort zone. To tackle this fear of mistakes head-on, Chloe decided to take action. She knew that she needed more speaking practice if she wanted to overcome her hesitation. That's when she decided to find a language partner. Using a language exchange app, Chloe connected with a native English speaker who wanted to learn Spanish. Language exchange programs are incredibly beneficial because they offer a mutually supportive environment. In these programs, you partner with someone who is fluent in the language you're learning and wants to learn your native language. It's a win-win situation because both parties are learners, meaning there's mutual understanding and patience. Chloe and her language partner agreed to meet virtually once a week to exchange languages. Chloe would teach her partner Spanish, and her partner would help Chloe practice English. This method gave Chloe the perfect opportunity to practice speaking in a real conversational setting. At first, it was intimidating for Chloe. She made lots of mistakes, struggled to find the right words, and often felt embarrassed. But her language partner was patient and encouraging, which made all the difference. This kind of support is crucial when learning a new language. Having someone who is patient and non-judgmental creates a safe space for you to practice without fear. Over time, Chloe's anxiety lessened, and these weekly conversations became easier and more enjoyable. She started to look forward to their language exchange sessions, viewing them not as something stressful but as an opportunity to grow. Many learners hesitate to join language exchange programs or practice speaking with others because they fear that their language skills aren't good enough. But let's be clear. There's no such thing as being too early or too unprepared to start speaking a language. Speaking is how you build fluency, and avoiding it only delays your progress. Chloe's decision to jump into speaking English with her language partner, even when she felt unsure, was one of the most important steps in her journey. The truth is, no matter how much grammar or vocabulary you memorize, your fluency will not improve until you start putting those lessons into practice. One of the key lessons from Chloe's experience was the value of finding a community. Whether it's through an app, a language group, or even an online forum, connecting with others who are also learning or are fluent in the language you're trying to learn can make a huge difference in your progress. Chloe didn't just rely on her language partner. She joined an English-speaking group that met weekly at a local cafe. There, she could practice in a relaxed, supportive environment. These gatherings became a safe space where she could make mistakes without fear of judgment. What made this group particularly beneficial was that it wasn't a formal class setting. It was a casual conversational environment, which mimicked real-life situations. The informal nature of the group allowed Chloe to experiment with new phrases and practice speaking without the pressure of being perfect. This sense of community kept Chloe motivated. Learning a language is a journey, and having people who can walk that journey with you will help keep you accountable and encouraged. Whether it's a virtual community or an in-person group, surrounding yourself with people who support your learning is vital. It can be hard to stay motivated when you're learning a language alone, but when you have others around you, it creates a sense of shared progress. Everyone celebrates each other's wins and encourages each other through the challenges. This sense of camaraderie made Chloe's learning experience feel more meaningful, as she was not only improving her language skills but also building connections with others. As Chloe continued practicing, she realized that one of the best ways to track her progress was by recording herself speaking. Every month, she would record a short video talking about a particular topic. Whether it was about her day, her thoughts on a recent news story, or her favorite hobby. Then, she would watch the videos from previous months to see how much she had improved. This practice of self-reflection is an incredibly powerful tool in language learning. Many learners fail to recognize their own progress because it happens gradually. It's like watching a plant grow. Day to day, the changes may seem insignificant, but over time, the growth is undeniable. By recording herself, Chloe could see and hear tangible evidence of her improvement. This visual and auditory feedback was invaluable because it gave her a clear sense of how far she had come and what areas still needed work. The act of watching her earlier videos also motivated her to keep going. She could see that her hard work was paying off, and this provided the encouragement she needed to continue practicing. Step 5 in your English learning journey is to track your progress. Whether it's through recording yourself, writing in a journal, or noting new words you've learned, tracking progress helps you stay motivated and keeps you aware of how far you've come. If you don't take time to reflect on your progress, it's easy to feel like you're not improving, even when you are. Journaling is another great method to track your learning journey. Chloe would often write in her journal after her language exchange sessions, noting down new phrases, grammar points, and any mistakes she made. This not only helped her reflect on the session, but also gave her material to review before the next meeting. This technique of self-reflection and evaluation allowed Chloe to see her own development. Often, when we're in the process of learning something new, it's hard to see the incremental improvements we're making. It's like watching grass grow. You don't notice the changes day to day, but over time, the progress becomes undeniable. By recording herself, Chloe could see and hear how much she had improved over the months, which boosted her confidence and gave her the motivation to push even further. This is something you can do as well. Keep a journal of your learning journey. Write about the challenges you faced, the new words you learned, or the conversations you had in English. When you look back at these entries months later, you'll be amazed at how far you've come. Another important strategy Chloe employed was practicing in real-life situations. One of the biggest realizations Chloe had during her journey was that learning English wasn't just about studying grammar or memorizing vocabulary lists. It was about using English in real-life situations. She began looking for opportunities to practice English in her daily life. Whether it was asking questions at a grocery store, chatting with colleagues during breaks, or even talking to strangers while traveling, Chloe made an effort to speak English whenever she could. These small, everyday interactions helped her become more comfortable using the language in a variety of contexts. Many learners make the mistake of waiting for the perfect moment to practice speaking. They wait until they feel more confident, have mastered more vocabulary, or have learned enough grammar. But the truth is, the perfect moment will never come. There will always be more to learn, and you will always have room to grow. The key is to start practicing now, wherever you are in your language journey. Chloe understood this and seized every opportunity to use English in real life. When she ordered food at a restaurant, she would use English. When she needed to ask for directions, she would ask in English. Over time, these small, seemingly insignificant moments added up to significant progress. Step 6 is to use English in real-world scenarios. Don't wait for the perfect time or setting to practice. Speak up at the store, ask for help in English, or strike up a conversation with someone. The more you use the language in real life, the more fluent you will become. These daily opportunities to speak in English are everywhere, and each one is a chance to build your confidence and fluency. Chloe's success was rooted in her willingness to step outside of her comfort zone. Every time she practiced English in real-life situations, she was putting herself in a position where mistakes were possible. And that's what made her improve so quickly. It's important to remember that fluency doesn't come from perfect grammar or memorizing every word in the dictionary. Fluency is about being able to communicate effectively, even when you don't have the exact right words. This brings us to another key point in Chloe's journey. Speaking with confidence even when you don't know all the words. There were many times when Chloe didn't know the exact word she needed, but instead of freezing or giving up, she found ways to express herself using the words she did know. This is an important skill to develop. You don't need to know every word in the English language to be fluent. You just need to know how to express your ideas clearly and efficiently. Chloe often used simple phrases or described the word she didn't know, and this worked just fine in most situations. The more she practiced this, the more confident she became in handling conversations, even when her vocabulary was limited. Finally, Chloe dedicated time each day to improving her grammar and vocabulary. While conversation practice helped her with fluency, she knew she needed a stronger foundation in grammar to feel fully confident in her abilities. To do this, Chloe dedicated a small amount of time each day to studying grammar rules and learning new vocabulary words. But instead of memorizing long lists of words, she focused on words and phrases that were relevant to her life and career. She used apps like Duolingo and Grammarly to study in short bursts, making the process more manageable and less overwhelming. She also kept a notebook where she wrote down new words she encountered during conversations, looking them up later and practicing their usage. This method helped Chloe expand her vocabulary in a way that was practical and useful for her everyday life. Step 7 is to study with intention. Rather than trying to learn everything at once, focus on what's most relevant to you and your goals. Learn words that you'll actually use and take the time to study grammar, but don't overwhelm yourself. Chloe's strategy for learning vocabulary was simple but effective. She didn't try to learn 100 new words a week. Instead, she focused on learning in context. When she encountered a new word in a conversation, in a book, or during a podcast, she would make a note of it and look it up later. This method ensured that the vocabulary she learned was practical and could be used in everyday conversations. One of the best ways to build your vocabulary is to learn words as they come up in real-life situations. This way, the words will feel more meaningful and relevant to you, and you'll be more likely to remember and use them. By the end of the year, Chloe had reached her goal of fluency. She was speaking English confidently, holding conversations with native speakers, and even giving presentations at work. Her transformation was the result of consistent practice, embracing mistakes, and stepping out of her comfort zone. Chloe's journey is a powerful reminder that fluency doesn't happen overnight. It's a process that requires dedication, patience, and perseverance. As you embark on your own journey to improve your English, remember Chloe's steps. Set a clear goal, practice consistently, immerse yourself in the language, find someone to practice speaking with, track your progress, use English in real-life situations, and study with intention. If you follow these steps, you will not only improve your English but gain the confidence to use it in any situation.